Liz Larson.
And I'm Bill McKenna.
And together, we created the Cogno Movement System. And we'd like to welcome you to the New Life Perspectives radio show,
where we're going to be sharing with you tools, tips, and ideas that are going to change your life.
Hello in UK Health Radio Land. I'm Liz Larson, and I'm here with my friend,
Bill McKenna.
Hey, Bill McKenna. And we are the hosts of the New Life Perspectives radio show here on the UK Health Radio Network. And we're also the team that happened to create the Cogno Movement System. Well, today we're here with one of our really dear friends. It's so exciting when she comes on the show. It's Cynthia Sue Larson. Now, you might know her best from her conversations about the Mandela Effect and reality shifting. In fact, Cynthia is a prolific author, and she has many books on the subject of reality shifting. Her website is realityshifters.com. Is that right, Cynthia?
That's right. Yes, it is.
What else would you like people to know about you, Cynthia, before we get started?
Well, I'm also affiliated with a group. It's a nonprofit organization, a 501c3 called the International Mandela Effect Conference. And that has a website, which is imec.world. So that's the big thing, because we're planning to get an in-person event happening in the next month or so.
And if people want to find your books, they can go to realityshifters.com and also anywhere on Amazon. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. So there's a reason we're kind of front loading the show with this today. We are going to talk about all things reality shifting, Mandela affecting, and other weird stuff. But we're not going to go too deeply into what these things are specifically. So we have a couple of previous interviews with Cynthia Sue Larson here on the UK Health Radio Network. Just go back, search her name, and you'll find her. And you can find Cynthia on YouTube as well, with all kinds of information about Mandela Effect and reality shifting. And on our YouTube channel, cognomovement.com, you can also find more information about this. So we want to just dig right in.
Now, can I mention one thing real quick? A lot of these things, may seem kind of woo-woo for a lot of you, but Cynthia is a physicist, a PhD.
It's true.
And so when she's talking about these things, she's able to actually bridge the gap with physics and how it all works. It's amazing. So anyway, a little bit about your background on that, Cynthia.
Okay. Actually, I've got a bachelor's degree in physics. That's my bachelor's degree, and that's UC Berkeley. But I have stayed active in the field, and I've stayed in touch with some of the professors I studied with, and I've been involved with running conferences on the Foundations of Mind. That's the name of the organization that I'm one of the managing directors for. And we have run conferences at UC Berkeley and in San Francisco with some of the hippies who saved physics. And I've co-authored papers with other physicists in the areas of consciousness. I've got a master's degree in information systems. So I do have some computing experience with information technology. And my doctorate is Doctor of Divinity. So I just want to be clear that I've got a very strong background in science, yes, but I temper it with spirituality as well. And I've got a business element as well.
So what is the bridge, Cynthia, between science and the aspects of this phenomenon, Mandela Effect and reality shifting? What's the bridge between the two? How do they come together, at least for you?
For me, that part, if I want to make it technical and scientific, we are starting there. I'd love to mention a couple of foundational pieces of strong evidence to suggest that the Mandela Effect and reality shifts are quite real. And in 2019, there was some research done showing clearly that two observers can be at the same place and same time, noticing different events. This was first proposed by the physicist Eugene Wigner, and he was suggesting the idea of running an experiment that had never been run until the results were published in 2019. And absolutely, it was proven in an experimental setting that indeed two observational devices were at the same place and same time observing completely different observations. That was exactly predicted by Eugene Wigner, because that's part of the weird, wacky, wonderful way of quantum physics. The other powerful scientific advance that came forward seems to me to be worth mentioning, and it's from psychology, which some people say is a soft science. And the University of Chicago researchers there, Bainbridge and Prasad, these two researchers, were able to find several different strong cases for people consistently, collectively remembering things differently, for things like the Fruit of the Loom logo, which, as most of us remember, a bunch of fruit sitting in a cornucopia, right? But they were doing experiments to show, would people select the fruit on the plate, the fruit without anything, or the fruit in a basket, the cornucopia? People consistently kept choosing the fruit in the basket, the cornucopia, even though it's never been that way for that logo.
So I have something about that.
Okay.
Years ago, when I was much, much younger, a different life, I worked as a commercial cake decorator. And around Thanksgiving time, we would need to do a cornucopia with fruit coming out of it. But I could never remember what it looked like. So we would go get the Fruit of the Loom package at Thanksgiving to remember what that looked like.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Somebody was talking about that recently. I'm like, that's not even possible. Because every year I had to do it. I just couldn't. It has a weird, funny little shape. And that image was exactly the kind of image that we wanted to recreate. And we would figure pipe, which is making it in 3D on top of the cake. But it kind of has a funny little turn to make the cornucopia.
A little bit tricky, yeah.
So I needed to look at it. And that is what everybody knows, that was the one thing you could rely on that had a cornucopia.
So Liz, what year was that, do you think, most recently this is so interesting?
It's many years ago. It would have been probably 1990. Let's see. I was a cake decorator from I was 19. And this would have been I would have been 22, 23.
Right.
So 1989, 1990, 91, 90, like in there.
But I love hearing this example, because then for sure that's what you were doing. This is not a fabricated memory. It's not some confusion or conflation or these misremembering. That doesn't make any sense.
No, because we didn't have a cell phone to look it up.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there might have been a computer in the bakery, but it wasn't that kind of a thing that you'd have to go find an image.
Right.
And, I'm like, oh, dang it, I don't remember how to. So I would go, I knew where the underwear were. I could find that.
Sure.
Isn't that interesting?
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I've heard from the company, Fruit of the Loom, fairly recently when I was tweeting something about, the Mandela Effect, and they responded to us. And basically, they love the attention, because it's good publicity. All publicity is good publicity. But they can't really, they're funny about it. They say we can't confirm or deny, but basically they don't have any evidence to show that logo ever looked the way you and I both remember.
So for everybody listening, what we're really talking about is, we call it timeline shifting. Cynthia calls it reality shifting. Some people call it a Mandela effect, and they're kind of a similar name for similar types of things. It's where you've experienced one thing, and then the next thing you know, somebody says, no, it was never that way at all. But it's not just one person, it's groups of people. So, Bill, you were saying earlier that you had an experience like this with a place that you know really, really well, right?
Yeah. One of my favorite places is Avalon, California. It's a little island, Catalina Island off the coast of Southern California. I used to live there for 9 months a year. And it's 1 square mile. That's the town, 1 square mile. So you can imagine, you get to know it really well. And I've been going there since, I was probably around 4 years old or so. And had, always gone, multiple times a year, and like I say, some of the times, I was living there for several months a year. Anyway, I went back this, few weeks ago, and there's like built-in kind of brick benches, and they've been there forever. I think they're probably built in the 1930s, something like that, maybe before. But they, it's old, and I got off the boat, and I'm walking. I'm like, what the heck? The entire structure had changed. I was like, whoa, wait, whoa, 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 whoa. Hey, now you made beautiful seating, beautiful. I'm not gonna disagree with the design, but it wasn't like that. And that was really funny. But I see these things somewhat regularly, changes, and I always find them shocking. Buildings, signs, a building doesn't come up in a day, right? A lot of work to make a building. And all of a sudden, pop, it goes from a 1-story house to, 2 stories, and there's a balcony, and you're like, wait, well, what just happened?
So what was the before and the after in Avalon? What did it used to be like? And then...
So there was no seating in one area, and then it turned into like a what I would call some semicircles of seating that happened, and also other areas. There was like a seating area that was like a wall seating that literally did not exist. And clearly,
they look old now, Bill. They're not new, right? So I mean, that's the question. Did they just change
that's the thing that blows the mind, is that, you go, oh, wait a second, did they build that? And you go over and look at it, and clearly it's been there forever. Yeah, so it's, those things, it's very shocking when it happens. By the way, I'm a boy, so, Fruit of the Loom, that's what the boys wear, right? It was always that cornucopia,
I remember that too.
It was all, yeah. I mean, when it turned into not, I was like, oh, come on now. Come on now. That ain't true, every boy had T-shirts and underwear, Fruit of the Loom. Every boy did. So
my question is, Cynthia, was it really the cornucopia? And there's some big agenda to make us think we're crazy. Is that what it is, or is it something else? What is happening?
Okay. Well, I don't think there's some secret hidden agenda trying to make us all feel crazy. And too many things are changing anyway. I mean, who on earth would be doing so many of these? And so it seems like what's going on is that reality has a much more dreamlike quality to it. And that's what seems to be going on, that our true nature is really consciousness. Is what the great spiritual traditions have been talking and teaching about for millennia. And they also sometimes are the cultures and the teachings that tell us that we go through these huge cycles, like the Yuga or the Mayan calendar. And when certain timelines come together at the epical moments, there's sort of a nodal point, and there can be a big change. Clearly, it seems like people are noticing time is speeding up. More of these things are happening. So it looks like we're really in the thick of one right now. And that's why it matters for people who never had any interest in meditation or anything like that, to start paying attention to mindfulness, to recognize that each of us creates a ripple effect, and that what we think and what we're putting out there in terms of our energy and our thoughts absolutely is influencing the reality that we experience.
I think for a lot of us who are consistently working in energy, like Bill and I and you do, for some of us, this has happened to us our whole lives. I know that's true for me, and I know you've shared a lot of that too, Cynthia.
Yes.
But for other people where they're just starting to experience it, they might actually feel like they're losing their mind. And in all seriousness, feel like, am I working in, do I have dementia? Is there something wrong with my brain? So many people are experiencing just little things like, I know I put that there and now it's just gone. Right. Or, I know I put that there and it's over there. I was on that airplane going out to Philadelphia last week, and I very specifically packed reading glasses. And so I reach in to get the reading glasses out, and one of the lenses has popped out. I'm like, oh, dang it. Okay, well, I don't have any reading glasses. So later on, a couple days later, I'm unpacking the purse and then kind of the travel bag to find something else that I need. And there are those same glasses with the lens intact.
Nice.
So for some people, little things like this are happening, and I think they might be actually questioning their sanity. So what do you have for them? What do you have to make them, I don't know if it makes them feel better or maybe understand?
Well, I think starting by recognizing these things are normal, that they've been going on for a long time, can be quite helpful. And what I mean by a long time is that there's documentation going back to the early 1900s and late 1800s. Mary Rose Barrington was tracking these things. She called it just one of those things where objects would appear, disappear. She called them walkabouts, and she has certain names for them. And she's written books and articles about it. She's no longer with us, but I want to definitely reference her work because I think that was instrumental in, at least in England and the United Kingdom, to let people know this is a normal phenomenon. Naturally, there have been stories in folklore traditions for generations, in the Celtic and the Nordic traditions about elves that would do things like take things away and bring them back and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of fanciful explanations for what could be happening. I've been tracking them since the 1990s, showing that this is a worldwide phenomenon. And so what I would tell people is, usually just pay attention to what's happening, and it's usually not too upsetting or too horribly dangerous when these things go missing or show up or transform in some way. That's what I've been calling reality shifts. So I like people to pay attention to what they're thinking and what they're feeling when these things occurred. Personally, I notice that my best reality shifts, the ones I like the best, happen when I'm feeling expansive and loving and grounded and a little bit detached from any kind of outcome. It seems like when I'm in that state, then I've had a flat tire instantly fixed on my car, which makes no sense that could even happen. A silk curtain that I'd inadvertently shrunk by washing it in too hot water, which I shouldn't have done. And then some 20 years later, it just instantly is the correct size again. That's interesting. So, but this comes from being in that relaxed, peaceful kind of like, it's all cool state of mind, The opposite sorts of things happen to me where I lose things. They just go missing and I really need them, or they break and that kind of thing. If I'm high energy, like super charged up, upset about something, and ungrounded, that's a recipe for disaster. So I just like people to start by noticing what's your energy state, pay attention to it, and also your frame of mind. And these are things we have a lot that we can do with. We're not stuck. So it's good for people to notice how are you feeling when these things happen? And probably if you're feeling high energized, a lot of emotional energy of any kind, you're much more likely to experience this phenomenon. So if I'd recommend people stay grounded, which means just letting emotions and energy flow through. And you probably talked about grounding on your shows in the past. It's important, very important.
Yeah. All right. This conversation is so fascinating, as it always is with Cynthia, but we need to take a quick break. So let's hear from the good folks at the UK Health Radio Network. UK Health, take it away.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
And we're back. We're talking with our favorite, Cynthia Sue Larson, about some interesting things like reality shifts, timeline shifts, Mandela effects. And you were talking about, like curtains becoming the same length, the right length again. And I was talking about glasses having a lens and then not having a lens, or vice versa. Bill was talking about Avalon having one kind of seating in the streets and then another kind of seating in the streets. I had one of those too in there. It's baffling. When it happens, it was in Cefalù, Italy, and I'd been there many times, and we were taking people on a tour. We got to the city and I didn't recognize it. And at that time, this was in 2016. I hadn't really met you, Cynthia. I'd read your books though. I just couldn't figure out what happened. And we were there for days, and I kept looking around thinking there is not a thing about this place that I recognize, except for when we got offshore. I recognized the shoreline. It just wasn't the same place. It
has an old history, right? So it's not like it's not a brand new city that changes constantly.
No, it's thousands, thousands of years old, its origins. So really, really, really weird. But you were talking about in the last segment about people needing to be grounded, needing to notice their energy.
Yes.
So Bill and I, actually, we teach people to change their timeline on purpose, but we kind of use neutrality, getting to that neutral place physically. What do you do, Cynthia, to help people shift their timelines besides being grounded?
Yeah, for me personally, I ever since my Kundalini awakening, I really need to stay grounded. So for me personally, it means being detached. So really not being stuck on any outcome, even if things don't seem to be going the way I think they should. Just learning to just roll with it and flow with it. Like, this is all cool, like improv. So it's really important. And if I have time for it, walking barefoot on the grass or the ground is really good. Time in nature is very good. These things are so helpful for me personally. And what I recommend for a lot of people is if they don't have one already and they're going through a Kundalini awakening, and they can't get out in nature, they're working or they're indoors, then go ahead and find a grounding stone. That can be quite helpful, because they may not have time to learn these techniques like detachment or anything like that. So I just say, okay, get a stone like obsidian or tourmaline. Crystals can be quite helpful. It's not cheating. And then you can learn how to do more things later, but it's a good start. So a lot of people, this whole thing just hits them like a ton of bricks. And so maybe a rock can help.
What happens for you? You said, I got to be really careful,
Oh, yes. Yes.
So why do you got to be careful? Since this happened, what happens when you're not careful, meaning not going with the flow? How happens?
All sorts of things. It's kind of like a telekinetic show, but not the good kind. For example, once when I was feeling particularly energized and not grounded, I just walked into my kitchen, and often I would know that I need to ground when I flick on the light and it blew out, just. But that wasn't the only thing in that moment. Unfortunately, the dishwasher had been running and it made a horrible noise, like, and it just went completely kaput. And I think 3 devices blew on that one entering into the kitchen that day. So that's expensive, annoying, and it's just all kinds of trouble. But I've also had that sort of ungrounded, angry feeling, and I just had a bad thought about a singer that He struck me as misogynistic, like clearly he doesn't like women and the way he's singing it. I just had a thought, like I just wish he wouldn't say anything. And then the next thing I heard, he'd had a terrible case of laryngitis. I mean, a really bad case. Like he'd lost his voice for weeks, like more than a month. And I thought, okay. I can't think anything bad about people. It's not mine. I'll leave it between them and the creator. And because I just don't want to be doing that kind of bad karma where if but now I've got a better solution, just really staying grounded. But that was when the Kundalini energy was first flowing through and certain things were happening, lots of other things too, but it could be shocking and disturbing. A lot of the stuff that was happening is like what I would hear young children going through, like when they've got, what do you call it? Poltergeist activity. Lots of poltergeist stuff would be happening, rocks and stones hitting windows when there's no wind outside. So I'm just like a parapsychological disaster zone if I'm energized and ungrounded. It's not pretty. So I make sure that doesn't happen anymore.
So there's got to be a flip side to that coin.
Yeah.
The flip side to that coin is there's probably times, like all of us, that you're incredibly, like, that was just out of control, what I would call reaction.
Yes.
And then there is the flip side of that, which is, because you're martial arts training and stuff, and she's also a black belt, everybody. So you've got focus. So there's got to be times when you're utilizing that type of focus, like I'm doing this now, and this is how it's going to go. Yes. And with that energy, tell us about that.
Okay.
You have to have had experiences of
Thank
that.
you. Thanks, Bill. Of course. Well, I do a lot of one-on-one work with clients for spiritual life coaching, and some of it can be energetic work. And that's where that kind of focus is very helpful, whether it's for emotional healing or that kind of thing. So it's very good in a partnership with another person. And I have seen lots of things be healed, not just people, but things can be healed too. So like the dishwasher at my parents' house, that broke down, and my sister turned to me and said, she looked horrified because like we had all the dishes yet to go for the big holiday meal. And this had happened a few years prior. So she just said, can you do that thing you do? Which cracked me up because I didn't expect that coming from her. Like, really? Oh, okay. I just laughed and laughed. I said, sure. Let's walk through the steps. So I just described, like, okay, we smelled this terrible smell of like burnt oil. We heard the sound of the clunk, and then this dishwasher didn't start, all that stuff. We're going to disregard that. Okay. I know the smell is still in the air. Ignore it. Okay. I'm just going to open the dishwasher. I'm going to shut it. And now we're just going to feel how much we love this dishwasher, because really it's about focusing with love, getting into that beautiful state of coherence with it, visualizing it's working perfectly, imagining that when I push the button, we're just going to hear it humming along. We're doing all this in our thoughts. And I said, okay, I think we're ready. And I said, it was a good thing we laughed too, because it really cleared the air. That's that perfect. Everything's clear. Everything's grounded. Perfect. I said, let's do it. So then I pushed the button and it started. But believe me, it wouldn't have done that. And that's not the only thing, various other things, printers and devices, cars, where the starter doesn't work or it's out of gas. These are all beautiful situations for that kind of focus, that you can recognize that no matter what it looks like, you're capable of moving into a reality or a timeline, whatever you want to call it, where everything's just fine, because there can be that adjacent reality. If you can feel it, if you can imagine it, and if you need it, and if you love it, then you're aligned with it, and boom, just bring it in. So I love doing that.
That has got to be just thrilling.
Yeah.
Just fun. Just like when you do it, you got to be just giggling the entire time after.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And I stay humble because I keep learning along the way too. Sometimes there was a whole legal situation and I just pretty much given up on that one. Like, well, can't do anything about it. But I hear my intuition, my guides suggesting to tell people, like, don't worry about me. I'll be just fine. I wasn't really feeling it, but when I said it, then I felt it. And I'm not going to go into the details, but that whole legal situation completely changed. I didn't see the evidence until about a couple months later, but then it's like the whole thing blew away, like it never existed at all. Perfect.
That is so nice.
Yes.
It's really true. I think that you can learn to do this and you can practice it. And the truth is, the easier you are about it, the less of a big deal I think you make about it. The easier it is that it happens. This week, when I was in Pennsylvania, I was working with a really particularly difficult group of clients. Not that they were difficult, but their circumstances were hard. And I was there to observe and see what could be changed or done with this group. And we had left one set of the clients and we had something amazing happen. And I said to the person that I was there with, these were her clients. And I said, yeah, I really wish I could do more. And I said, I really need a magic wand. And she says, you have a magic wand. She was referring to our work. And I said, yeah, I guess that's true. But I'd really like another one. And I just said it just like that, and I was sort of thinking about, gosh, I wonder what else could happen. What else would be possible here? Right.
Right.
Thea always says, how good can it get? Right.
Yeah.
It was that kind of a feeling about it. I was just lightly thinking about, man, it would be nice. And the very next set of clients we had, that's exactly what happened. We got another magic wand that absolutely could be a game changer. And it was for the person, that next client. These were children, by the way. And then the next one and the next one. But it almost seemed like just as easy as that. Gosh, I would like another magic wand, right? Now, I think if I kept asking for that, I might get attached to the outcome, right? So now I have to stay neutral about it. I'm still in the glow of appreciating that new magic wand. And Bill and I talk about this all the time. In fact, we just filmed an episode called The Joy Preset about how most of us don't know how to enjoy something. You get it has a shelf life of about 40 seconds. You get what you want, and then you're like, okay, next. So we've been practicing keeping ourselves in that glow state of when something great does happen. Kind of sounds like you do the same.
Oh, yes. That for me, that's nature. That's being in the garden. That's the connection I feel with the trees, and they can help with the weather patterns. I really credit the love that I feel for the redwoods here in the Bay Area for having helped to turn around that 1,000-year drought that we were in. And, to me, that's exactly what happened. And it's all about how good can it get, and the partnerships that I'm feeling with, nature, really feeling the gratitude. And relaxing, not getting all caught up in the horror cycle, the news cycle, which seems so fear-based.
You were sharing earlier something else that you really love, and that's when extinct animals are then returned. You said there was one in California?
Yeah, off the coast of California, Southern California, there's a tiny little clam that came back after 30,000 years gone. And that just warms my heart when these things return, and they were considered extinct, but now they're back. And some people say, well, that was tiny. That's why you didn't notice it. Okay, maybe. There are skeptics, there are cynics. To me, it's like, wait a minute, we've got marine biologists by the thousands checking out the ocean waters off the coast of California, but whatever. Okay. I would then say, what about the giant Galapagos tortoise that showed up? And that had gone extinct also for at least hundreds of years, if not longer. And then it showed up. That thing's gigantic. So these little, excuses of, well, these tiny things, they go missing. No, it's not just that. There's definitely something big happening. And these are good pointers for something very positive coming, which I think it's to our advantage to be radical optimists, to keep building that momentum of how good can it get, like you did. Like, I just need a magic wand, but not getting stuck or, addicted to any given outcome, just knowing this is the way nature works and we can work with it. And how good can it get when we do? Let's find out.
Yeah, exponentially, right?
Right.
Okay, so I can't believe it, but we've run up against another time block. And so we need to hear from the good folks at the UK Health Radio Network. And then we'll be right back with Cynthia Sue Larson. So UK Health, take it away.
UK Health Radio. the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
Okay, and we're back with Cynthia Sue Larson. We're having a fascinating conversation about stuff popping in and out of reality, things becoming extinct, and then returning. So, Cynthia, you said that one of the things that you like to talk about the most is where is all of this going? We know everybody can feel it. We're in a massive time of some sort of transition. Where are we going?
Well, this is where it gets good, because if you notice that more and more of us are experiencing this phenomenon, we're experiencing synchronicity, we're getting a little bit more telepathic with one another, all these things are becoming more obvious, then we don't need to just look at the news to see like, my gosh, it's turning into chaos. We can see, this silver lining that is actually the greater part of it, which is that we are moving into our next great evolution as a species. We really are stepping into and moving into our birthright, which is to become the next level of humans. And it's very normal, very natural. I'm not talking about transhumanism. I mean, just the good aspects of being who we are and being good to one another collectively too, that we see from the Mandela Effect, this very amazing phenomenon where a whole bunch of people together collectively are remembering something differently. So it's a mismatched memory with what we know to be true, like the fruit of the loom cornucopia. All three of us today agree. We've seen that. That's the way it was for us. And then if we can say, okay, this is something that all three of us have noticed, that's changed. That's extraordinary, because instead of it just happening to one of us, where we might question our memory or feel like, well, that's so weird, I don't know what happened here, then we get evidence that we're doing this together. That means we have a collective consciousness that's shared you could call it a reality bubble. In physics, there's that guy that I talked about, Wigner, there's such a thing as a Wigner bubble, which means that in the experiment I described with the two observers noticing two different things, you can have a bubble of reality. That's like how that for us is saying we can have a golden age that we're coming into that has been predicted for thousands of years. And we have a choice. You can actually choose something that's a lot less fun. And sometimes it might look like it's right here, but you can also know that there is that golden reality also available. This is that point that humanity is reaching. And the way we can access it is by improving who we are on the inside. It is an inside job. It does require taking care of it, like you guys do with cognitive movement. And thank you for that. That's the tool set into this new golden age. It's everything that helps to keep us aligned, informed, aware, and really working together with the connections that we have, which might be different than the connections we had before that. And that might have sounded weird before the last few years, but now I think people understand.
Yeah, I think people are having such extraordinary changes that I think it is important to have people focus on the positive ones as well. And Bill and I have become aware of that. There are things that we could not change for people. We could not help, especially health things recently, that now are absolutely changeable, right, Bill? We're having that experience.
Yeah, it appears that things that would seem very fixed, like absolutely no way out, now they're absolutely malleable. Like they can totally change and totally get better. So this is the positive aspect, application of the positive aspect of, what we're talking about. And the scientific validation that this is actually true,
yes.
That as the observer, we affect reality. And I love the way that you put it, that you have a choice of stepping into the reality, but it's through kind of an unlikely point of view, which I never would have thought before, which was I have to simply change how I feel and have very clear intention of what I want. Well, so change how you feel. Well, my understanding of this is that if you have a reaction type of feeling, anger, fear, jealousy, shame, guilt, humiliation, so on and so forth, that you literally lock in a reality, that it goes from like the quantum supposition of states from a wave down, now collapsed into a particle, meaning I'm going to have this reality. And the other aspect, is to have those feelings of gratitude, of being loved, of loving others, of being non-judgmental. And those two, you can lock in a different reality. Does that sound like it jives for you?
Absolutely. Yeah, that example I mentioned, the legal situation where I just I could hear my mouth saying, "Don't worry about me. I'll be just fine." I believed it. And until I heard it, it took me to hear my ears hear my mouth say that. Then I realized, yeah, I do believe that. I believe her, It's kind of like, because it's like she has so much faith in the cosmos. Yeah, I put all my money on that. And I could just feel that switch. I could feel, it's like a pushing, when you were talking, I love it, Bill, because like these emotions you'd mentioned, the reactionary ones like shame or guilt, that's like pushing in a little punch code and you're going to get it's like you're dialing in the frequency and you're going to open the door and there's the reality. Probably not a good one. So yeah. you don't want to be pushing in the punch code like this is a disaster. And that was even though I'd been practicing, clearing and grounding and I was doing pretty good, I wasn't anywhere near where I got when I realized, yeah, I'm not worried about me at all. I get it. This is going to be so amazing. I don't even know what's going to happen. And I never did find out exactly. It just sort of poof, just got a phone call. The whole thing's been decided in your favor. We're going to blow it away. It's like, really? Like, nice. So I hadn't even hired a lawyer yet. Anyway, but the point is, this is like perfect. It's like the flat tire that just went poof. So my experience is exactly that. Just staying in the highest level vibratory frequency possible. For me, that's gratitude, reverence. It's like this bliss of ecstasy, just knowing that how good can it get is the way of nature and the way of life. And really feeling that regardless what the circumstances may look like, which is a tall order. So I know what that is for these difficult cases that you alluded to earlier, Liz. So, I'm aware there's some pretty rough spots out there, but it's meant for all of them. It's just meant to be that ultimate code that can open the ultimate best possible outcome. And nature is built for optimalism. That is what nature is constructed for. It's designed for it, to find out, to show us how good can it get. When we ask questions we want to live the answers to, that's when it's really amazing and it's good.
It seems to me that there's some sort of push to keep us from those states, meaning to be in fearful states and divided and that sort of thing. And the evidence point that I think that I always watch, because you're going along the freeway here in California and they've got these huge billboard signs and you see the lottery, right? Everybody loves the idea of winning the lottery, and you'll see the amounts. The amounts have never been bigger. We're talking, they had to make the signs into billions now. Billions, that's with a B, not millions, billions, right? Mm-hmm. And so the billion thing came out, and I was like, you know what? The reason that the amounts are getting so large is because there's so much fear that nobody can get congruent enough and happy enough and undistracted enough to win. It used to be that it was 20 million, 30, 40, 50 million or something. But people are no longer, that because of all the fear and the divisiveness that they can't get into those joy states. And it's happening in mass. So anyway, I don't know. That was just one of my thoughts about it.
That's interesting. Yeah, it seems like go ahead, Liz.
No. You go ahead, Cynthia.
Well, I'm just thinking it's interesting that nobody's won them, and it keeps going to like no winners this time. I think that's fascinating too. But that ties in with your point, I think, Bill, what you were saying. There wasn't that much coherence.
I think there's another aspect of it too. I think once it got close to 1 billion, it's kind of like that person who broke the 4-minute mile and then everybody could break the 4-minute mile. I think once it got close to 1 billion, people are like, oh, 1 billion. And then I thought, I bet you that thing will go to 1 billion again and again and again. And then it did. And then it broke 1.5 billion. So I bet you we'll see it in not very long from now be $2 billion. I think it's just a little bit of the flip side. I think Bill and you are right, Cynthia. And I think the opposite of that is also that people are, oh, I think that's possible. So now let's make it even more possible.
That could be. Yeah, it's that tipping point where it's like it generates interest for sure. I think that's true.
Yeah, it really, really does. So you guys, we're actually just about 4 minutes away from the end of this segment of the show. So I want to make sure everybody knows how to get the next segment of the show and where to find Cynthia. So we're going to end real soon here for the UK Health Radio Network app platform. And then the UK Health shares this episode anywhere that you like to listen to your podcasts. But there's a bonus. The shows are often extended on the other platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all of those. So you can hear the extension of this episode on all of those places, as well as on YouTube, Cogno Movement channel on YouTube. You can watch the extension of this episode. So Cynthia, I want to make sure everybody knows where they can find you next. There's a big event happening really soon, right?
That's right. Well, my website is realityshifters.com, and I have a newsletter, so people can check the newsletter, and it has all the latest news and subscribe to it there. And the event is our International Mandela Effect Conference event happening September 2nd through the 4th in Branford, Connecticut. That's Labor Day weekend in the United States, and we still have tickets available. You can find out more at our website, which is imec.world.
What happens at an International Mandela Effect conference?
Well, this year we've got 13 speakers and talking about everything from Bible Mandela effects to the science of the Mandela effect. Tom Campbell, the physicist, is scheduled for the agenda when we're talking about science. We have author Roger Marsh talking about reality and truth bubbles. Christopher Anatra will be talking about decoding the Mandela effect and, what does it mean? I think Shane Robinson, he's another one of our board members, will be talking about how to find the meaning in these things. And Jerry Hicks, he's another one of our board members. He'll be talking about a lot of the material that he's put into a whole class that he now teaches on the Mandela effect. And then we've got Meigs, who has a YouTube channel, lots of other wonderful speakers. I think this is a big opportunity for people to come together in a community, find out lots, make friends, and really, there's nothing like being in person with a group of people that is this wonderful. It's just so special.
And you, Cynthia, are you speaking?
Yes, I'll be speaking too about the science of the Mandela effect, going into some of this material that we were talking about today in a little bit more detail.
All right, you guys, we've run up at the end of the time we have for this episode, but join us in the extended conversation where we're going to get a little bit weird. We're going to talk about the weirdest one of these Mandela effects or timeline shifts that we've heard about or experienced ourselves lately. So please join us on the extended episode on YouTube, a Cogno Movement channel, or anywhere you like to listen to your podcast. So for now, thank you so much, Cynthia, for being here with us. We just love it when you stop by.
My pleasure. It's been wonderful. Always a treat with you guys.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Okay. Be safe and be well. And we'll see you on the flip side, the extended conversation. Thanks, everybody. All right, everybody, we're back for our extended conversation. And it's our great pleasure to have our good friend, Cynthia Sue Larson, back with us. And as you guys know, in these extended conversations, we like to get a little weird. So, Cynthia, what is the weirdest thing you've seen lately?
Oh gosh, this is really weird. And I'm glad you're going here because I was thinking, how do we fit this in? It's strange. Okay, if I were to ask you, how do you salute the flag in the United States? What's the hand movement that you make? It's a straightforward enough question.
That's not it. Bill, he just did a salute. The flag. You put your hand over your
Okay, yeah, hand over the heart. That's how I thought that was the original salute.
That's God bless America.
Well, guess what? What if I told you that there is an original salute to the flag of the United States that looks nothing like that?
What?
I know, right?
What is it?
It gets even weirder. I mean, you would think it might be what Bill did there, but no, it's putting your hand out. I'm doing it right in front of you. It looks like kind of like you've seen the Nazi salute that came along.
That seems a lot like a Nazi.
Yeah, but this was before the Nazi salute. This was like 1915 or something. It was called the Bellamy salute, and it was created by the gentleman that brought us what we say today. I pledge allegiance to the flag. He wrote that. And it went with the Bellamy salute. You point your hand toward the flag. So you've got a whole classroom of children. And there are photos that you can find on the internet that show lots of people doing the Bellamy salute toward the flag before it ever was the Nazi salute. It's the weirdest thing. Yeah, I know,
how
right?
did it change?
No. Come on. No.
Do you know when it changed?
No, I think don't do that. Don't do that.
I don't know. I had never, ever, ever heard of this. So I have not tracked exactly when it changed or like how. I think it came in, last I saw was like 1914 or 15. Now with these things, sometimes the dates move. So just because I saw that, who knows? So that is pretty out there. And this is one that affects all of us in the United States. So it's pretty, and all three of us are agreed. We've never heard about it before.
No, straight up look like a Nazi.
That is so weird.
Yeah. That's like, definitely, I don't think we're going to, maybe it's going to bring that back. That's not going to go over well.
But it's a good one for if you make bets in bars and that kind of thing. Like show me the original,
Yeah, the original. The original.
It's the Bellamy. So from the guy that came up with I pledge allegiance to the flag.
On
the United States of America. Yeah.
On that subject, Cynthia, there is something about the heart that has changed. This is an extra weird one. What's that one? You know it?
Well, I know the one where it moved to the center of the chest, which that's very weird because I remember that, like putting my hand, speaking of the flag salute, I put my hand, the teacher would use it as a teaching moment. Put your hand over your heart, which is slightly to the left, right? Not to the right, but it was to the left. So it was extremely specific. No longer is it slightly to the left. It's definitely moved, or it's not moved. Apparently it's always been in the center of the chest. And some of us have this mismatched memory, which says, wait a minute. I remember that when they did a blood pressure check or something, it was a difference between your left and your right arm. It totally made a difference. Now it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah. And also when you would do the compression, it made a difference. You needed to know.
Right.
Where the heart was. That one is just weird. And then there's one about kidneys too, right?
Yes, they have.
Hold on a second. Wait a second. You're going to tell me that now my heart's in a new place? I was always over the left side like this. This is how you do.
I remember
it's in the center.
I remember that too. I'm right there with you. But now your heart has always been in the center of your chest. And your memory that it was on the left is just
a false memory that I spent my entire childhood like this. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Come on.
Well, to me, it's not a false memory. I don't call these false memories. I believe you, Bill, and me, and sounds like all three of us. Again, Liz too.
We did this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I did that.
It feels like to most of us that something shifted, that we shifted into a different reality. For a lot of us, it was right around that 2020, things took a hard left turn and reality seems to be different. So I agree with you, Cynthia. I think it's a different timeline in which things are different. And there's one about the kidneys too.
Right.
The kidneys used to be farther up on your back, right?
Yeah.
Lower down.
Put your hands on your kidneys. We'd all put our hands in our lower back. Like if you're tired and you're just taking a rest, that's where they are. Well, that's not where the kidneys are anymore. But you remember why not to do a kidney punch, right?
Right.
Because it could be potentially lethal and somebody might start, having blood in their urine and that sort of thing. Very, very bad sign.
So it shifted up or down?
Up under the relative protection of the rib cage.
However, though, wherever they've shifted, they're more accessible for surgery now. Have you heard that too?
I've heard it's easier to get, or that you can come in from the front now, and before that wasn't possible. Yes.
Somehow that's it. And I have an interesting story about this one.
Oh, wow.
I have a friend who in her 70s, they thought she had a cancer on her kidney near the adrenal gland, and which sit on top of the kidneys. And she's deaf. So I would go with her to a lot of her appointments, all of her appointments really, and translate for her. And she'd be so nervous and so upset at all of these procedures or consultations that, she couldn't read the doctor's lips. She just had a hard time because she was very upset and nervous. So I would go, I would take really detailed notes. I would share with her the information at the time, but afterwards, she'd be able to come back and ask about these issues. And we went, and I remember being furious because this doctor was telling her that they would need to cut her nearly in half to get to the kidneys. It was a massive procedure. She would have less than a 25% chance of survival. Mm-hmm. It was just a mess. He wasn't a very nice doctor, a urologist. It turns out she went to Oregon State University and they just put a hole in her side and put a cannula in and froze the little tumor. But at that time, that's how difficult it was.
What time was that? What year roughly?
Gosh, it was probably 15 years ago.
Right.
Just about, not that long ago, 15 years. Yeah. And now you hear about them being able to do kidney transplants and people getting out of the hospital very, easy after donating a kidney.
Yes.
Because they're in a different place. But at that time, that was how they would get to her kidney.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing that you remember all that because it doesn't match what's happening now. But it's so perfect for what most of us remember. Like hearing about this kidney punch that even had a name for it. And we know where it's targeting. It's not up higher where they are now.
Yeah. All right, Bill McKenna, what's your weirdest one? Timeline shift, Mandela Effect.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I would say that, I think it was kind of like the episode in the previous part of the episode, around being in Avalon. That was very strange for me because it was, basically where I've been a good part of my life, and being able to see that.
You had a big one where a whole building, a whole car dealership was missing, right?
Yeah. I had a car, I was getting on the freeway for 30 years, the same on-ramp, and I looked across at the corner, and that was always Mossy Nissan, on the corner. And I looked over and it was 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven. And my wife was there, and the weird thing was the 7-Eleven looked very old. It was clearly not a new 7-Eleven. It was an old one. And I was like, what happened? I said, how long is that 7-Eleven? She was like, all our lives it's been there. And I was like, oh my God, I'm telling you, it's unbelievable, so that was a real, you walk away just shaking your head like, wow. I agree with Liz and yourself around 2020. And at the time, I didn't really have a word for it other than I would tell people that it felt like I had entered into an alternate dimension. Like, this is not my life. This is not my life. This is not reality. It's like, but here it is with all these strange, like, new rules, new ways of being that were kind of normalized. And you're like, that ain't right, you know. But I think during that period of time is when we saw such a huge one. What do you think, Cynthia?
Yeah, I think we collectively, it's something that all of us would agree with, regardless where people are, what they believe in. They all agree that was a big change, 2020, and that was worldwide. So it was interesting. And it seemed like it was this is where I'm not going to get into politics at all, but there was something going on clearly. And some people are asking, is there a puppet master, and who is that, and what's going on? Those are interesting questions. But, I like to ask, how good can it get? So I consider that we have friends at higher levels of conscious agency. And I have been getting some really clear messages, big time, that are showing, get ready. It's kind of like it's about to be showtime. So just bring your A game, which means radical optimism, fearlessness, courage, positivity. And I don't know what the details are, but something amazing was happening where I was getting one signal I got was in the middle of day, 12:15 noon. It was an unusually clear day here in the Bay Area. Often it's foggy in the summer. This is the end of June, beginning of July. And it was perfectly clear blue skies, but then in a split second, everything went midnight black. My daughter was in the kitchen. I could hear her go, oh! It was an auditory gasp. And then it went back to clear blue sky again. And my husband was in the living room, and I asked him, did you notice anything? I asked them both. And I checked, my guidance was telling me check the clock. So I did. It was 12:15. And so I'm getting signals that indicate get ready, and you've got a lot of support. When things go black, it's going to be fine again. So it'll just be like that. So this message comes with many, many levels to it. The time of day was significant, 12:15. That's to me north, 12 east, 15. So it's showing, be aligned all the way to our highest levels of conscious agency. Be focused on the golden dawn, the golden age, where you want to go. Ask the questions you want to know, that you want to live according to. So, and a lot of other things have been happening, but to me, that's big stuff. And it really is calling us to be the next evolution of ourselves, with our hearts in the middle of our chest, the kidneys relatively raised. We are evolving real time. And it's kind of like, get ready for greatness.
Isn't that, I love the way you put that, right? You think, Liz, our hearts are in the middle of our chest, right? Mm-hmm. And we're evolving at such an alarming rate. We're not talking about millennia like, well, the species evolved into a, right? It's like, we say it's there now, it's here, that's crazy stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting though. And Liz, did you have something? I don't know if you want to talk about the dark thing, but you mentioned.
Well, yeah, I was going to share that I can confirm that happened, but 3 times in a week I experienced that. All of a sudden it's black, like the lights have gone out in your house. You know how when the power shifts and it's dark in your house and it's pitch black and then it's bright again, just for a split second. That happened to me as well. I was sitting at the dinner table with my husband. He had his head down looking at his phone. He didn't notice it, but I noticed it. I mean, as big as life, it was pitch black and then bright again. I said, oh my gosh, the power must have gone out. And then I realized it was light outside. It was like 5:45. It's still summer. It's light. And then 2 other times that exact same thing happened where it seemed like the lights went out, but it's not like I blinked or my eyes were closed. Everything went black for a split second. Very, very strange. But like it didn't change your clock on your microwave. It didn't change. It wasn't flashing. The power had indeed not gone out. Something else happened. So that was really, really interesting. And at the same time, Bill and I are talking every day. There's always some weird thing happening in my life. So it just becomes kind of normal. But I do have the weirdest Mandela effect I heard recently has to do with Cynthia Sue Larson.
Really?
I've never heard this one before. I heard you talking on something recently where you said there is a Mandela effect in which people thought you died.
Yes.
That's bizarre.
Absolutely. Yeah, that did happen. Okay. That one is interesting because I heard from somebody that I at the time had never heard from before. He emailed me and said, about to say something really strange and please don't take it badly. But I remember, I'm so glad you're alive because in my memory, I heard news that you'd passed away. It was announced on Facebook, social media by your husband that after a long illness, Cynthia had died.
Oh my God.
I know. And I followed, it didn't offend me at all. It drew my curiosity, like, tell me more. I didn't tell him anything. I just said, I emailed back, okay, please share with me all the details. How did you find out? That's how I found out, social media. And that it was my husband and saying after a long illness. So a lot of the information came out and he was mentioning this having happened in early 2017. And what I told him was that exactly matches the time that I got pneumonia in 2016, the winter. And if it had continued, at the time I felt this is really bad. This could be the end of it for me. But I didn't tell people. So it wasn't like I said anything in my newsletter.
It wasn't public at all?
No, not at that time. I just told my parents, my daughters, my husband, that's it. And so, but after this happened, then of course I'm asking my readership, anybody else out there remember anything? And they did, and they do. And there were people from all around the world, maybe not that many, but, maybe a smattering of people who remembered different things. One of them remembered Rupert Sheldrake had mentioned that I'd passed away. That was interesting. Oh, another one heard that she had remembered seeing and watching a YouTube sort of a tribute done for me by Moneybags, I think. So that was interesting. He has a Moneybag 73 channel on YouTube about the Mandela Effect. So a few different things came in and they each had different ways that they heard about it, but it did not happen. But it feels to me like it could have. So it's interesting for me to be on the inside, to be like, what's it like to be Nelson Mandela? Did he feel like he might have passed away while he was in prison? If it was like what happened to me, I'd say yes. There may have been that moment where he felt, we can't ask him now, but yeah, he might have felt that way. Yeah.
Have you heard the theory that some people have where you have these it's like off ramps during your life? You have points in which you could exit. I know I've experienced a number of those. You realize this could be it, or it could have been it. Mm-hmm. And that in some reality, you really did take that exit point. And then in another part of you continued on. Do you think maybe that could have been it for you?
Yeah, because I've got a standard practice when these things happen. Like you, I've gone through, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 of them. And so now it's just a routine thing, like, oh, here we go. So it's like, okay, I might be dying. And I just take it very matter-of-factly. It's fine with me if that's the way it's going. So I just go to source, creator, God, whatever you want to call him, and just say, let's take a popular vote. I'll go with it, whatever it is. And just let's find out what the answer is. And then if I'll be staying, then make it so. And boom, that's pretty much it. That's the whole process. And it never fails. It pretty much then that's the point, like, oh, okay. I just needed to make it consciously clear that I'm doing that. And I just give it to a popular vote, because if I'm more helpful than harmful, okay, great. Keep me around. I'm not going to decide it. You decide it, source, God, creator. Put it to that vote. And then I love the part where I just say remove anything, because I can feel when there's something coming in, and then it's all cleared. Problem cleared. So that's a good one. I hope it might help people if they're listening and they feel like I need something like that. Yeah, there you go.
Well, I find, it's building and I am not paying attention because I got 1,000 other things in my mind. And then all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, this may not be good. When I find that when I recognize it, I just relax into it. I'm like, oh, fine. No problems. If it's now, it's now. That's okay. I mean, I have probably a different way of looking at death than other people do anyway, but okay, that's fine. And then that relaxing into it releases any of the pressure or the tension.
Yeah.
And it goes completely the other way, almost instantly. Like pretty quickly, the solution pops in, or, another way around pops in, and, just continue on. But that idea for you, because, I know you and I heard you talk about that. I'm like, wow, that's a little creepy. That would be a little creepy to have people tell you, I remember you died.
Yeah. Well, then it was like, that was a very obvious exit point. So it left a little bit of a fingerprint, a little bit of a mark. That's pretty cool. That's really cool. Well, I did have a conversation with one of the scientists who was featured in the movie Particle Fever, and I'm not, I guess I'll keep his privacy because he hasn't outed himself as a Mandela Effect believer, but he's kind of a big deal. And I saw him at the panel when they did the airing premiere of the movie at UC Berkeley. And we got together for tea later, and I told him not to, please, don't take this the wrong way, but when I wrote this book in 2013, Quantum Jumps, you did not exist. And he did not take it the wrong way. He understood completely. He said, may I have a copy of that book? Like, yes. So the ones who really get it, they know. And I'm not offended or I don't think it was creepy that people noticed that I died, because I almost did die. Yeah. Yay, it's been validated. It wasn't my imagination. That was a close one. Other people noticed, like, glad you're with us. Me too.
My favorite turn of events, shall we say, is the recent revelation from our government. Yeah, there's probably UFOs, and we've seen them, but we don't know what they are. I love that. I really thought, before probably, I guess 2017 was the first kind of inkling of it. But I thought, man, we'll never see that in our lifetime. But I really wanted it to happen in our lifetime. I really wanted it to be real. And everybody knows about it. And dang it, if that doesn't seem like it's happening. And sometimes I wonder, am I a part of the team that wished that into effect?
Yeah, I think so. And the writing's been on the wall on that one. I visited Native Indigenous, property where they don't let anybody in, but I was a special visitor, and I've seen 2 carved handprints, one human, one alien, side by side. So these things have been, in the rock, in the petroglyph, really obvious. And when I've talked to the people in that area, they said that they remember, like, Grandpa would just be talking to these guys who would just show up, like did they arrived in a vehicle? I don't know. They just showed up. They're just, one minute they're not there, then they're talking to Grandpa, like, talking about what? Do they look like people? And they look like people. I don't know what, just Grandpa would be nodding and talking to them, just a normal conversation. That's always been happening. But it seems like with our government, we don't get the same clarity. We don't get that same, we don't have, you can't go to the museum and see, here's the evidence. We've had interactions ever since the founding of this country and long before. Nobody talks about that, but that has been the truth. And we do deserve to hear it. So let's keep intending that the real full truth will come out and not some crazy cockamamie version.
That's true. I got a chance to befriend Clifford Mahudi, he was a Zuni elder, and he often spoke at UFO events, and he said that he had a hard time getting his message out, which was, they've been here. Our people have been talking about this forever. It's just a part of our history and a part of our current, a part of our now. It continues.
Yes.
And he said, because it was so, I think, just made sense. Like, it really is a part of who we are and what we are. It just wasn't as dramatic. And he wasn't given the invitations to speak that he should have. His message wasn't given the respect.
To me, that's the big message. That is the big
right.
Message.
Me too.
Yeah. Fascinating.
All right, you guys, we have come up against the end of our time for our weird chat. So, Cynthia, thanks again for being here with us. It's always such a pleasure.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Great
Love you guys. Love you guys.
We just love you. We hope to see you in person sometime soon. Everybody here in UK Health Radio Land and anywhere that you like to listen to podcasts, please reach out to Cynthia at Reality Shifters, an S, right? RealityShifters.com. And attend the IMEC conference, September 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And I'm sure you can reach out to Cynthia and find out anything else you want to about that event. As always, thanks for being here with us, Bill McKenna.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Until next time, be safe and be well.
Thanks for being here with us on the New Life Perspective radio show. For more information or to find out more about the work that Bill and I do, please visit us at cognomovement.com or email us at info@cognomovement.com. See you again soon.